What's up, my wizards? It's Dev. From Mtg, we like magic, and today I got a big old batch of Dominaria spoilers from Thursday for you. Lots and lots of new art, and a buttload of new cards. We got like 10 brand new unleaked cards, so there's a lot to talk about. Let's go ahead and get to it. Well, there's some limited playable stuff that's in the set that we got art for today. We got to see Drudge Sentinel, Get to Journey Mage, and Juggernaut. All of these confirmed to be in the set. Drudge Sentinel's cool. It's got like a functional version of regeneration. That's neat, but it also seems like the final death knell for regeneration. You will never see it again, really. So that's kind of lame, but cool looking skeleton, bro. As far as Get to Journey Mage, the reason it looks like that is because this was an arena preview, so that's why it looks weird. Sort of MTGO-ish. It's actually from Arena. And then Juggernaut, really, really good and limited. Probably not the best Juggernaut art ever. My favorite's probably always going to be the original, to be honest. But it's because I am nostalgic for things. I fall for that trap. So, yeah, this is just kind of a big ram robot tank thing. That's whatever. But Juggernaut's good to have in limited. Moving up the scale of playability, though, we got to see some slightly better stuff, too. Get some art today. There was Thorn Elemental, Urgoros, and Helm of the Host. Thorn Elemental, awesome reprint. Really good Timmy card right here. Going to be amazing on your top end and sealed. If you get it in your sealed pull during the pre-release. It's probably good for that. Liking the new art, too. Welcome back, Thorn Elemental. As far as Urgoros, meh, you know, like, I guess the art's cool, but I just still can't get over how, like, underwhelmed I am by the card. It's cool to have, like, a neat sort of callback to Hypnotic Spectre, but it's really expensive, super killable. I'm just not a huge fan. As far as Helm of the Host, though, art looks cool, and this is really expensive. I'm still really on the fence. I don't think this is quite playable, especially in a format so with where a braid is everywhere. You know, you're just really asking for it. But this looks great, especially with like Combat Celebrant. You know, you get infinite attack steps, yay! And there's other cool stuff you can pull off with it. But I think that at the end of the day, it is really, really expensive to cast. It's expensive to equip. It's very easy to take out. I just don't know. But the upsides to this are really, really big, depending on what you're putting it on. Another bump up the playability scale, we also got to see Goblin Chainwhirler, Jodah, and Eldest Reborn. I'm mostly only interested in Jodah for Brawl, and that's about it. It's probably better 5-color commanders in Commander at large, and I'm not really sure that the card is tuned for standard playability. 4-mana 4/3 flyers, at least okay, but again, really killable, doesn't stack up to the other 4-mana cards in the format, doesn't stack up to any of the other flyers well, so I don't think this is really doing anything in standard, but I guess you could possibly get like turn 5 whatever you want. If you set your mana up right. So, I mean, there's always a possibility, but I'm mostly interested in to see if we can make this work in Brawl. Eldest Reborn just kind of looks like a cool reanimation trick. It's definitely awesome. Things about this, it's a bunch card advantage, but it's a really, really slow roll, so I'm just not sure that it's a better option than some of the things we already have access to, and other things in this set that we'll have access to when it comes out. So I'm sort of holding my breath on standard playability, but there's a lot of card advantage on this one card, and it's all really, like, good selection, too. So, you know, Eldest Reborn might have a shot, but looks a bit slow at the end of the day. As far as Chainwhirler, though, this looks really good in a mono-red aggro deck, you know. Not only do they obviously play On-Crop Crasher, I think they'll still keep playing that, but a lot of mono-red aggro decks also play a couple of copies of Pia Nalar, and I wouldn't be surprised if Chainwhirler just took the slot. And once we see some more goblins, maybe we have to wait until Core Set comes out, Chainwhirler will probably be even more attractive in that environment. But as it stands, I think this has a chance to see, you know, standard play right this second. You know, you can wipe the board of Champion of Wits, Glintsleeve Siphoner, tokens and stuff like that. All the like little white creatures people are going to be playing on turn 1 in the upcoming format. You can just wipe the board of all of those with your 3-drop, and it's, you know, passes the vanilla test. 3-mana 3/3 with a keyword ability, and a good one at that. I like a lot about Chainwhirler. This will definitely see play at some point. But the last 4 cards from the leaks that we saw art for today, I actually think have a lot of potential for standard playability. The least of which is probably Grand Warlord Rada, especially in a format where right now we have Rekindling Phoenix, we have Hazoret. There's much better stuff at the top of Aggro's curve they want to play, but once rotation hits, yeah, it'll still have to compete with Phoenix, but I think it's a really, really good card for a straight aggro deck to try to play at the top of its curve, you know. During the combat step that you play this, it can go ahead and back itself up with Blossoming Defense. It can cast Shock, it can cast, Built to Smash. There's a ton of stuff that this can cast, like, as soon as it swings, the turn you play it, even if you tapped out. That's really good, and if you swing with anything else, that gives you mana for Invigorated Rampage, or anything else you want to try to do. And it doesn't empty during your combat steps, so there's a possibility you cast this on turn 4 and tap out for it, attack with 2 dudes, and you've got mana up for, removal, Harness Lightning, Lightning Strike, whatever, or just a creature after you swing in. So I think that Grand Warlord has a chance, especially after rotation. Creature looks good. But I think the best 3 cards that we got art for today are Narumeha, Varix, and Dampening Spear. Dampening Spear looks amazing against Tron and even Storm, obviously, but this keeps 2 important modern decks in check, and we'll almost certainly see play right out the gate. So Dampening Spear I don't have much to say about other than it's obviously a very good sideboard card against 2 very good modern decks, so it will see play, absolutely. As far as the other 2, Narumeha looks fantastic to me, man. Like, if you have another wizard out, then you can just double up on, like, Wizard's Lightning for 5 mana. You can double up on Fatal Push for 5 mana. And for 6 mana, I still think it's worth doubling up on, like, Harness Lightnings and Lightning Strikes and stuff. So, like, this does so much for a relatively low amount of mana. Puts a body in play and has Trinket text. If you've got any other wizards, you're getting a little bit of gravy off of this. So, Narumeha looks so insane to me. You also get to say Kamehameha every time you play it, so that's an upside too. As far as Varix, I really, really like this card. I think that both modes are good. 4/4 flyer for 4, that's probably fine in most situations. Stacks up at least okay against a lot of stuff. It's worth pointing out that it can't be killed by Glorybringer because Glorybringer can't target dragons. So that's kind of neat and probably relevant. And if you do have the 7 mana, this makes it really good against cards like Vraska's Contempt, Targeted Removal, Singleton 1-for-1 removal that a lot of people are playing, So if you've got the 7 mana, putting 2 threats out, essentially getting a Broodmate Dragon, looks really good too. And there's going to be a lot of times where you're going to do that. Games go long. This is the fact of life. Games go long, so if you rip this off the top on turn 10, you're probably going to win the game off of the back of 2 4/4 flyers. They really have to wrap the board, and there's not much they can do about that. But as promised, there are a bunch of brand new cards that we saw today, and a lot of them are actually like really worth talking about. That's why I sped through that first part. But there's also some like limited playable stuff in this batch as well, so I'll go over all of that right about now. Here we go. We saw Fire Elemental, cool reprint, bro. We saw Mesa Unicorn, awesome art, dude. And Llanowar Envoy right here, which is a card I'm actually kind of interested in for standard play because there's an Elves deck brewing up that might be really interested in fixing its mana in this manner. That's a weird sentence. Especially once like Servant of the Conduit rotates. We're not going to have all the options in the world for making outside sources of mana. I will say that green and blue look easy to make with the lands that we'll have in the upcoming format. Green and black look the same way, so it's not super hard to splash colors, but something like this would make it even easier, so I do think it has an outside chance of playability in standard elves. But in limited, it's a good, easy way to get access to 3 different colors in a limited deck, which is probably going to be important. It's really tough to make the decision to go into a third color, to splash a third color sometimes, especially in sealed where your card pool might not be very tight, but you really want that third color for just a couple of cards. And Llanowar Envoy makes that decision a lot easier. As far as Mesa Unicorn, we just saw this card. This is Bishop Soldier, but it doesn't really have any relevant creature types, but it's still fine in limited. A 2 mana 2/2 is at least a bear, that's okay. It's on curve. It's a decent 23rd creature, but once you give it lifelink, it's really awesome. That's a great keyword ability to have on any creature in limited. So it's cool. It's unicorn. I like unicorns. I do. I'll admit that. I like unicorns. And the art is very pretty. But here's where I'm going to start telling you what cards actually do, because it's a lot less self-explanatory. They're not as vanilla, and we haven't seen them before. So in any case, here's Banalish Honor Guard right here. It's just 2 mana for a 2/2. It's 1 and a white for a human knight. Banalish Honor Guard gets +1/+0 for each legendary creature that you control. Okay, so I actually have a little bit higher hopes for this, and I think a lot of people do. At the end of the day, I don't think it's going to be very relevant, but there is a Green-White Legends deck. I keep talking about it, I'm losing my breath talking about it, but it exists, and I think that Shauna's a much better 2-drop, and there's probably better 2-drops for that deck outside of Shauna. But it does have a Via Pashiri in the 1-drop slot. It's got plenty of 3-drop legends, especially in green, that it could play. So it would not be uncommon, I think, for this to get to, as big as 4/2 for a 2-mana investment, which is probably worth it. And if it gets any bigger than that, it's awesome. Especially, I don't think it'd be very hard at all to get it to a 3/2. which is probably at least okay. I'd really like to get to 4 power for it to be truly worth it. And there's not all the situations where that's going to happen, but I do think it could be relatively easy to pull off in the Green-White Legends deck. My only concern is that there's probably just better ways to fill those slots. But in Limited, if you got like 3 or 4 legendary creatures in your deck, and you can get this to a 3-power guy for 2 mana, that's more than worth it in Limited. You'll be trading with 3 and 4 drops some of the time, and you want that. We also got to see Lingering Phantom today. This is 5 and a black for a 5/4 spirit. Whenever you cast a historic spell, you may pay black. If you do, return Lingering Phantom from your graveyard to your hand. Okay, so 6 mana is probably way too much to actually like want to hardcast this, but you might hardcast it sometimes. I'm talking about constructed playability here. Now, in Limited, I think you definitely play this card. You play this card no matter what. But as far as standard playability, I think that some people are forgetting that having something that's super easy to discard and then get back so that you can discard it again, you know, we already have a card like that. We have Squee in this set, and Squee was always good. All of his iterations have been good. As just discard fodder. You know, cards that in your deck that want you to discard cards, this is a super safe way to discard. You can always get it back and then discard it again. And then if the game extends, you have a really solid body once things get late and you have the mana to cast it. It's a little gimmicky, but it's a gimmick that's proven effective before. Surprise reprint right here. We got to see Gilded Lotus today. They're reprinting this. If you haven't seen it yet, somehow, it's 5 mana for an artifact, tap to add 3 mana of any one color to your mana pool. First of all, I think the flavor text on this Gilded Lotus is just self-reflection by wizards. But in any case, Gilded Lotus is back. Cool that it got a reprint randomly, you know. Saffron Olive said that they're just trying to, like, sneak commander staples into standard for Brawl, and, like, I think there may be some accuracy to that statement, actually, and it's just cool to see the reprint of it. This thing's, like, $10 at least right now, I think 15 on some websites, so this will bring it down a little bit. It's going to be cool to open up Gilded Lotuses again, and it does look cool in specifically the Paradox Engine deck. Definitely that. A lot of pieces for that deck, for the Aetherflux Reservoir pseudo-Cheerios thing that's going on with SRAM. You know, it's seen a fair amount of pieces this format, and that doesn't surprise me. You know, one part of the nostalgia of Magic history and one part of Dominaria in general is like the ability to do kooky but powerful stuff with artifacts and different big spells, and so it doesn't surprise me that we got to see really cool stuff for the Paradox Engine deck. Now here's one people are talking about. This is Unwind right here. It's 3 mana, 2 and a blue for an instant. Counter target non-creature spell. Untap up to 3 lands. Okay, so this is really juicy, obviously. It's like Negate and Rewind had a baby, and they just like took the average casting cost, jammed it together, and got 3. This is one of those cards that's like worse than Negate and better than Negate at the same time. So, but I do think it'll probably end up seeing play. Negate's going to be in the format like the whole time this is in the format, so that's not a guarantee. But, I mean, what's the better card? Unsummon or Snap? I think Snap's probably the better card. You know, it's cool that we got an effect like this. It's been a really long time since we got a good effect like this. That untapped, you know, every land that you needed to cast the card. You know, we saw some sort of low power stuff that untaps a couple of lands, but it costs 5 mana. This untaps every single land that you use to play it, and you can strategically, obviously, untap other lands if you want to. This goes really good in like 3 and 4 color control decks, because you can untap lands that were tapped before you even cast the spell. Then you can cast, you know, black or red spells or whatever in your Grixis deck. So I think that's a really good angle right there. Untapping lands is always extremely powerful and might be worth the extra mana. So I think that like creature-based decks that play Negate in the sideboard, you know, mostly to counter, you know, Settle the Wreckage and Mass Removal and stuff, Fumigate, blah, blah. Probably won't prefer this, I would imagine, but control decks that, you know, they're not going to cast their Negate until turn 5 or 6. All their mana is going to be open to them anyway. A lot of the time, you know, maybe they cast their Negate on your Chandra on turn 4. Well, they would still have access to this, and then they could just untap and cast a Glimmer of Genius. That seems like a really, really good turn for a control deck. They can just get right back and, you know, still fit in a Hieroglyphic Illumination or something on you that turn, Supreme Will, whatever. So that just looks extremely powerful. That's definitely something Control wants to do. Obviously, Rewind has always been a disgusting card, so I just don't see this not seeing play. I know Negate's keeping it maybe from seeing play, and it's going to be in the format the whole time this is, but it's just really exciting to have an untap effect, and Control probably really wants that, so I think it might be worth it. But here's a card I'm actually like really stoked for. This is Adventurous Impulse right here. It costs a green mana. It's a sorcery. You look at the top 3 cards of your library. You may reveal a creature or land card from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. Another cool flavor text call out here. This is paraphrasing Tolkien, who was himself paraphrasing Lao Tzu. In case you didn't know,
lived in a hut and ate straw.
That he did. But in any case, this is a good-looking card to me, and I like that green just gets this effect now. It's a strictly worse, in most ways, Oath of Nissa. Sometimes you'd probably rather have a sorcery in your graveyard for certain things, you know. This is more easy to delve or whatever, you know. So there's some ways that this isn't necessarily strictly worse, but Oath of Nissa just did so much more. It could find a Planeswalker, made Planeswalkers easier to cast. I think Oath of Nissa is the much better card, but Oath saw a lot of play. You could argue that it's the most played Oath that we ever saw, and this is essentially the same effect. We also have like Commune with Dinosaurs in Standard too, which is like this. You know, you get a 5-card dig, but you can only get dinosaurs and lands. This, creatures, but you only get a 3-card dig. But I still think that probably makes it more than playable. This kind of card selection for just one is really great. Lets you play a slightly lower land count, helps you get to, you know, your 3rd color and 3-color decks more easily, and just finds a creature sometimes when you want it. That's going to make Mox Amber a little bit more playable. It's going to make these legendary decks a little bit more of a thing because they can find the creatures they need to find when they need to find them a little bit more easily at a really low investment. I like this card a lot. But another surprise reprint, and the last card we'll talk about today, I actually think this might be, end of the day, dust settles, smoke clears, the most impactful card we've seen today. Here's Syncopate right here. They brought it back. In case you somehow haven't seen Syncopate, it's just your classic, you know, X and a blue counterspell. Counter target spell unless its controller pays X, but with Syncopate, you exile it when you counter it. First of all, I guess this art's okay, but like the Duck Lips art will always be my favorite art. So it's just really has a place in my heart. This can't quite beat it, but still looks pretty cool to me. And Syncopate is ridiculous. In case people have somehow forgotten, you know, there are people on Reddit today being like, well, Clash of Wills was sort of fringe playable. Clash of Wills saw lots of play in its standard, and Syncopate usually sees lots of play when it's in standard, and it's even better in this upcoming standard than I would say maybe it's ever been, you know, like against stuff like, you know, Hazoret, which is nearly impossible to kill, and you can usually get this for the same price as Essence Scatter to counter a Hazoret. They're almost always going to play Haz on turn 4 anyway. So for the same cost as an Essence Scatter, you'll usually just exile Hazoret on turn 4. Plus, there's Rekindling Phoenix. It exiles. You need to exile that, obviously. Scarab God, the most important creature in the format. Yeah, you want to exile that forever. So I know that Essence Scatter also just puts these creatures sort of harmlessly into their owner's graveyard, but you still want the ability to exile things. And those aren't the only things that you might want to exile. There's also like Scrap Heap Scrounger, anything with Embalm or Eternalize. There's tons of stuff people are doing with their graveyard in the existing standard, let alone what Dominaria standard is going to look like. So the ability to exile is going to be very, very important. And these just X and a blue counterspells are nearly always very good, especially on the play. So I'm excited for Syncopate. I think it's the perfect card to bring back right now. And I think that blue-black control and blue-white control already looked like they were getting some really good pieces, some real help from this set, especially blue-white. And yeah, blue-black because cast down's in the set too, and whatever. But like, this is just another sign that control is going to be even more or very real once Dominaria comes out. This is just a great piece that will definitely make the cut. But that is every single thing that we saw today. I feel like that went really, really quickly. Sorry about that. I was really excited talking fast about a lot of these because especially like the last 3 or 4 cards we looked at today, I really think have a lot of potential. So let me know how you felt about all this stuff down there in the comments section. Get a dialogue going. Want to know how you feel about these. Am I just crazy or are these real? And make sure that you check out the first link in the description if you're interested in pre-ordering any of this stuff from my sponsor, TCG player, TCAG player, down there in the description. They're good folks, and you can check them out. They're a good price guide right now for sort of, you know, a barometer for what's going on with this set as far as pricing, how people are speculating. Even if you're not going to order anything, click the link and just kind of check out where some of these prices are. But I'm pretty sure I'm tapped out for now. Just do all the stuff for me if you will. Like the video if you liked it. Sub if you're new, hit the bell for the notifications, because tomorrow there's probably going to be a lot of spoilers. I think in the next couple of days we're going to finish off this train. So we're going to see most of the set in the next few days, I think. So make sure you sub for all that content. Hit the bell for the notes. Follow me on Twitter at SBMTGDev, or throw us a buck on Patreon at patreon.com. Link in the description for that one too. If you want to, be a cool guy. But in any case, I'm Dev from the place, and I'll catch you cats later. Thanks for watching, my wizards. Spread love and be kind.